In the United States, prison isn't always reserved for adults. Over the years, several children, some as young as 10, have been sentenced to time behind bars. From controversial trials to heartbreaking crimes, here are the 20 youngest prisoners ever in U.S. history. In 2001, Lionel Tate became the youngest American sentenced to life without parole. At just 12, he killed a 6-year-old girl while mimicking wrestling moves. His sentence was later overturned after public outcry and he was released with conditions. However, he would later return to prison for violating probation. Curtis and his sister were just 12 and 13 when they plotted to kill a family member in 1999. Sentenced for second-degree murder, Curtis was released in 2015, after 16 years behind bars. Today, he's a free man and even became a minister after prison. His story is often cited in debates over child justice reform. In 1998, Phillips killed an 8-year-old neighbor and hid her body under his bed. He was sentenced to life in prison at 15. He later claimed he killed her accidentally and panicked. Despite appeals, his sentence remains, though some still advocate for clemency. Jordan was only 11 when he was accused of killing his father's pregnant fiancée in 2009. After years of legal battles, he was eventually acquitted in 2018, but the case remains highly controversial. He spent his entire teen years fighting the justice system. His story sparked debates on how early a child can be charged with homicide. In 1997, Abraham was charged with murder at just 11. Tried as an adult, he was sentenced to juvenile detention until 21. After release, he struggled with reintegration and later reoffended. His case highlighted the long-term trauma of early imprisonment. Cristian was charged in 2011 with killing his 2-year-old brother. Initially facing life without parole, he eventually took a plea deal. Many believed he was a victim of abuse and neglect himself. His case helped change how Florida handles juvenile cases. At just 12, Gingerich helped kill a friend's stepdad in 2010. He was sentenced as an adult, which shocked the public. Later transferred to juvenile court, he was released in 2017. Paul went on to write a book about his experience behind bars. Miller killed a neighbor during a robbery at 14. His case led to a landmark Supreme Court ruling banning mandatory life without parole for juveniles. The ruling, Miller v. Alabama, changed sentencing laws nationwide. He remains in prison but is now eligible for parole. In 1987, Barry became the youngest American sentenced to life without parole for murder. He was just 13. After decades of advocacy, he was released in 2016. His case is now used in law schools as a lesson in sentencing reform. Convicted in the 1920s of killing 2 young girls, Harold's case is one of the earliest examples of a juvenile convicted of murder in the U.S. His trial sparked a media frenzy at the time. Many still debate whether he was truly guilty or a victim of mass hysteria. The case remains unsolved in the eyes of some historians. Boskett's violent crimes as a teen led to changes in New York law, allowing juveniles as young as 13 to be tried as adults. He's now serving a life sentence in isolation. Once called the most dangerous teen in America, he now spends 23 hours a day in solitary. His story influenced how juvenile offenders are treated in New York State. Executed in 1944 at age 14, George was the youngest person executed in the U.S. in the 20th century. His conviction was vacated in 2014 due to a lack of fair trial and racial injustice. He was tried and sentenced in just 1 day. His case remains a haunting example of systemic failure. Hernandez murdered a classmate in a bathroom in 2004. He was sentenced to life without parole at 16 and died in prison in 2021. He reportedly had a hit list of more classmates. Psychologists described him as showing early signs of psychopathy. Smith killed a 4-year-old boy in 1993. His red hair and glasses became iconic after the trial. He served 28 years before being granted parole in 2021. Eric now lives under a new identity and has expressed remorse for his crime. Though not convicted, Kaliev spent 3 years in Rikers Island, 2 in solitary, after being accused of stealing a backpack. His tragic suicide in 2015 became a symbol of injustice for juveniles. Jay-Z later produced a documentary about his life. His legacy changed bail reform laws in New York. Dwright Boone was sentenced to 90 years in prison at age 17 for orchestrating the murder of 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee in Chicago. In 2015, Boone Doty lured Tyshawn into an alley and executed him as part of a gang feud. His chilling actions shocked the nation, leading to renewed debates about how gang culture pulls teens into deadly violence. Lakeith Smith was sentenced to 65 years in prison at just 15 under Alabama's felony murder law. In 2015, during a robbery gone wrong, a police officer shot and killed Smith's friend, but Smith was held responsible for the death. His case outraged many who saw it as an example of how brutally the justice system treats young offenders, even when they didn't pull the trigger. Aiden Fucci was sentenced to life in prison without parole at just 14 years old after brutally murdering a classmate. In 2021, Fucci stabbed 13-year-old Tristan Bailey more than 100 times in a shocking attack that gripped the nation. His guilty plea and young age reignited fierce debates about whether teens should ever be eligible for life sentences. Zephen Xaver was sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms for a 2019 mass shooting crimes he had been planning since his teenage years. Though 21 at the time of arrest, investigators revealed Xaver had fantasized about mass killings since he was 16. His dark trajectory raised serious questions about missed warning signs and early intervention failures. These kids were barely old enough to understand life, yet found themselves in courtrooms, prison cells, and headlines. Some of these stories ended in tragedy. Others sparked legal change. But one thing is clear: the justice system's handling of children is one of the most complex and controversial issues in America.